Hello, are you ready for today's science lesson? I hope so. Today we are talking about the integumentary system, and this lesson is just an introduction. So let's get started. What is the integumentary system and what does it do? Let's find out. First, integument means tough outer coating. In our case, it's skin. The integumentary system includes your skin, your hair, and your nails. The integumentary system acts as a barrier to the outside world. It serves many layers of protection, which we're going to get into, and it keeps internal organs and tissues inside the body and also hydrated. But again, we have way more to talk about. Some fun facts about the integumentary system. Skin is the largest organ. How cool is that? Also, fun fact, the largest internal organ is your liver. Skin is about 16% of your body mass. So for every 100 pounds, about 16 of those would be from your skin. Bacteria break down secretions that include proteins, fats, and more from apocrine glands, and they create body odor. So if it weren't for those bacteria, we wouldn't have body odor. You lose about 1 million skin cells every day. Now, that number is a rough estimate, but I think it shows you how important mitosis is to keep those cells replaced. About every month, your entire skin is fully replaced. A new skin suit. Your eyelids have the thinnest skin, so thank goodness they are not in an area of high friction. And dead skin cells make up a lot of dust, which is interesting when we think about people being allergic to dust. It's not actually the skin, but we'll talk about that in another lesson. So protection. Protection, there are many layers. First, we have these Langerhans cells. And they are immune cells within the skin, and they are going to attack invaders before they can even enter the blood supply. So this is a huge benefit because once an invader gets into the blood supply, it can be systemic. It can get anywhere. So Langerhans cells have the job of trying to prohibit invaders from getting into the blood supply, and then also initiating an immune response when necessary. Protection. Well, the skin provides waterproof protection. There's a special protein called keratin that is found in skin, hair, and nails. It retains water, so it protects against dehydration. What happens is that cells at the very bottom layer called the stratum basale in the epidermis, so down here, we have cells called keratinocytes. Okay? And these are the oldest cells in your skin layer. And what they're going to do is divide and begin moving upward like this. Okay. So the oldest cells will be here at the surface of your skin, and you see these cells start to flake away. Okay. And right in this layer right here, the stratum granulosum, here these cells are now dying and they're filling, you can see these dots, they're filling with that protein keratin to provide that waterproof barrier. Okay, another layer of protection in the integumentary system comes from melanocytes. Okay? Melanocytes produce melanin that protects against damage from UV radiation. Melanocytes, these octopus-looking like cells right here, create these melanosomes filled with melanin, and then they move so that they have a kind of like an umbrella of melanin over the nucleus. And since the nucleus contains the DNA, melanin is kind of like a DNA protector. Okay, there are two types of melanin, which we'll talk about in a later lesson, eumelanin and pheomelanin, and they create the different colored pigments in skin. And there's still more protection. So as you can tell, protection is a big deal for the integumentary system. Your eyelashes and your eyebrows help to keep dust and particles out of your eyes. For anyone who has lost their eyebrows in chemotherapy or has shaved their eyebrows, We'll notice that if you do sweat, it will drip down into your eyes much easier. That your eyebrows help to keep the sweat from dripping into your eyes. Also, hair in your nose and in your ears also protects and keeps things from getting inside your body. Okay, finally on to the next category. Your integumentary system also helps to regulate your body temperature. So hair helps retain heat. Most of our hair, well, the longest hair we have is found on our heads, okay? But we still have hair, small, fine hair everywhere on our body, but primarily it's noticeable on our heads. Sweat helps to cool us down, okay? So as we sweat and that sweat evaporates, it pulls away extra heat from our body. The opposite will happen if you're cold. Shivering from muscle activity produces some heat. And the last step is going to be blood vessel dilation and constriction. Most of the heat transfer is actually through your skin. The rest is through mucous membrane. So about 80% of heat transfer happens through your skin. So here's an illustration of what happens with capillaries at the surface of your skin. So here's the surface of your skin. Here's a capillary very close to the surface. What happens when you are too warm is these capillaries open up and allow more blood to flow through them. Why would they want to do that? As more blood flows through them, we lose that extra heat at the surface of the skin. On the other hand, if you are too cold, those capillaries get constricted, so less blood is flowing through them, less heat is lost. So this is a way to conserve heat, and this is a way to get rid of excess heat. All right, on to another function, that's excretion. We have exocrine glands. They secrete to the outside of the body. There are several types located within our skin. We have eccrine glands. They produce sweat to cool us down, and they excrete salts. We have apocrine glands, and they release secretions into hair follicles and cause body odors. So here are eccrine glands, and they release, you can see, right to the surface of the skin. And then you have apocrine glands that release into a hair follicle. These are going to be the ones that are responsible for creating body odor, but we're going to get into that as well as these little sebaceous glands in another lesson. Now, our skin is also important for vitamin D production. So skin exposed to sunlight begins the process of vitamin D synthesis. So you can see it produces vitamin D3, which is then processed by the liver. If you have, through supplements or your diet, vitamin D, you can introduce that, and it comes in at this step to your liver. There are a few more steps to having vitamin D that is functional and helping us regulate calcium in our body, but the sun is a super important component to that. So vitamin D is important for calcium regulation in our bones. Okay, so if we don't have enough vitamin D, our bones are too weak. And still more, the integumentary system has skin receptors. And so that means it's responsible for a lot of sensation. So there are a few types, and I'm going to go through them. First, there are nociceptors. Nociceptors, I think of this in my head. No, definitely don't want this. So they're receptors for pain. Then we have Meissner's corpuscles. They're responsible for light touch, so those soft touches on your skin. Pacinian corpuscles, and I think the P for Pacinian, they are deep pressure, like if somebody grabbed your skin and squeezed you. And then we have thermoreceptors, therm like a thermometer, and they sense hot and cold. So here's an illustration of those different types of nerve receptors responsible for sensation in our skin. Okay, so again, to recap, we have thermoreceptors. They're responsible for hot and cold sensation. Meissner's corpuscles responsible for that light, feathery touch. Okay. Nociceptors, is responsible for pain. and Pacinian corpuscles are responsible for that deep, squeezy pressure. Another function of the integumentary system, it's never ending, isn't it, is the storage of lipids. So the hypodermis is a fatty tissue layer underneath the epidermis and dermis, and it's made up of loose connective tissue, adipose tissue. So a lot of fat is stored there, provides some insulation and protection. All right, so a quick overview of the layers of skin or the integument. There's three main layers. The epidermis, that's an outer layer made of 4 to 5 layers of cells. Now, those are 4 to 5 categories of cells. The number of layers is actually far greater, and we're going to cover that in another lesson. We have the dermis, which is made of 2 layers of connective tissue, and primarily it has nerves and capillaries in addition to connective tissue. And then the hypodermis is the loose connective tissue, adipose tissue, and it's very vascular. So any kind of injury that gets down into the hypodermis is going to bleed pretty heavily. Whew, who knew our skin, our integument was so complicated, important, and had so many functions that are actually vital for our survival? Did you know that already? And still, there's so much more to learn. So this is just the beginning of the integumentary system. Come back to learn more.